Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson is a show about the journey of motherhood. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
You know, it's the perfect time to start planning your 2019 vacation. And so with me today is Melanie Fish. She is joining us from VRBO, the site to book beach houses, cabins, condos, and more, to share booking tips for renting a vacation home. And you know, I've been talking about how much I love traveling and staying in vacation homes. Melanie, thanks for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having me. Booking a vacation is the easiest New Year's resolution to keep, don't you think? It's fun.
I agree, and I love it.
Yeah, and January really is the time to really start planning that trip, especially if you're part of a group or a family that wants to rent a house or a condo, because January is the busiest booking month of the year on VRBO. And those are people who are booking their stays for spring break, but they're also booking all the way through summer vacation. The number of people who book in January skyrockets. So if you really want the place that you want to stay, in the location you want, with all the amenities you want, at the price you want to pay, January is really the time to do it.
That's good to know, because I feel like a lot of people think about booking trips during the holidays, and then maybe they think, oh, maybe not so much in January, but January really is the time, especially if you want to book for your summer trip or spring break or anything like that, or even in January, because that's when airline tickets go down in price.
I'm also pleasantly surprised with the number of homeowners on VRBO who have generous cancellation policies. Mm-hmm. So there are quite a few that have 60, 90-day cancellation policies. So if you're booking in January, and if you're like me, it's just hard to, take that final step and actually put the credit card in there. But there are so many homeowners that do have those generous cancellation policies that it kind of eases your mind a little bit. So you can look for those if you're not sure you're ready to commit.
Exactly. But what's so great about a site like VRBO, like you've said, you can search for so many different things and you can narrow it down to what you really want. I know I filtered for homes with a crib or a high chair when I was planning my last trip on VRBO, because traveling with a toddler can be tough, but having the comforts of home takes a little of the stress away.
It should take the stress away. Our number one amenity filter that people use is swimming pool. Most people seem to want that private pool when they rent a vacation home. Mm-hmm. I travel with my 2 teenage daughters, so I need to make sure there are enough bedrooms that everybody can spread out. And sometimes I want to look for a house that doesn't have a TV in every room, because that's not why we're there. So all those little details in each unique vacation home are important to the person who's booking.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any tips for friends and families planning a vacation when separated?
Okay, this is very cool. So when you go to VRBO on the app or VRBO.com and you start looking for your ideal vacation home, your perfect match for your next vacation, you put in the dates and you put in the location, and it'll pop up everything that's available. And then you start narrowing down, as we've talked about, by the amenities we're looking for. I definitely want a pool. I definitely want to be on the beach. I only want to spend this much. And it really starts narrowing the list. But then that's really just where the fun starts. It's almost like Pinterest. You can get lost in looking at all the amazing photographs and reading the reviews, but then you don't want to try to keep track, on a piece of paper or copying and pasting links to the properties you like. So you just click on the heart next to the listings that you want, and it will save to a trip board that you can name whatever you want. You can organize by possibilities for summer vacation 2019 or girls getaway or family reunion. And then you can share that trip board with all the people you're planning to travel with in 2019, and they can have a say in the planning. So I think that is an easy way to keep track. And then when you go back and check it the next week or even the next day, if a property is still available, it's still there. And if it's not available on those dates any longer, it's kind of grayed out. So
right. That is terrific. I love that. I love that everybody can see what's going on from where they are. And then this way you can all make a decision.
Oh, exactly. It's a lot of pressure to be the planner. I'm the planner in my family, and I know that you're the planner in your family, and it's a lot. So you kind of want people's opinions. so that no one can say they weren't consulted.
Exactly. And the thing I love about vacation homes, other than the extra space, has been immersing myself into the culture of the region. What would you recommend for finding the right neighborhood?
If you have a neighborhood in mind, I say go straight to the map. And I really love a feature on the VRBO app that lets you pull up the map for the location that you're searching, and you can just use your finger to actually scribble on an area on the map and see all the homes that are available in that neighborhood. So I really like that. And then also look at the distance to the point of interest that you're interested in that's there on the listing, so you know how far away you are. For example, I live in North Austin, but I wouldn't recommend friends who are coming here to rent a vacation home stay in North Austin. I would recommend they go to South Austin. It's just a really vibrant place with lots of cool restaurants and shops. And so you can pull up on the VRBO app a map of the area and actually take your finger and scribble in the places that you want to see vacation homes available. And I love that. You can circle a whole area or just sweep down a coastline if you want to make sure you're on the beach. And it's just another fun way to search and narrow down what you're looking for to specific parts of a city or destination.
I agree. I think immersing yourself in the culture is a wonderful part of traveling. Is there anything you should keep an eye out for when you start to book?
More information is better, and I say read it all. The beauty of vacation homes is that each one is unique. The challenge is that each one is unique, so you really want to read the entire listing to make sure you don't assume there's air conditioning. Make sure there's air conditioning if that's important to you. Make sure you know what the cancellation policies are. Some people might let you cancel 60 days out. Some might not let you cancel at all. So you really want to make sure you understand that. Whether or not your pets can come along. There are great pet-friendly properties, but when they say pets are allowed, do they mean that there's a weight limit on a dog? So you just want to make sure that you're reading all the information so that there are no surprises either on the homeowner's part or your part.
I've had great success with homeowners providing recommendations and an overall good booking experience. Is there any other precautions travelers should take?
Common sense. It's always about common sense. First, I would start with VRBO or another one of the big booking sites like our sister site, HomeAway.com, because when you book and pay through a site like that, you enact the book with confidence guarantee, which protects you in case of someone wrongfully withholding a damage deposit, or if in the very rare case something were to go wrong, there's 24-hour customer service there to help you. So I think that's tip one. And really, I would say it's true whether you're renting a vacation home or doing any other sort of travel. Look into travel insurance. The agreement that you're making is between you and the person who owns the home. So if they have a no cancellation policy and weather prevents you from getting to the home, it would really be nice to be covered by travel insurance. And I think, better safe than sorry.
Speaking of destination, what are the top destinations for travelers in 2019?
Well, here in the States, for domestic travel, the top trending destinations are around the Great Smoky Mountains and Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. Those are really fun getaways, and I haven't been to Dollywood yet, I'm ashamed to say, so I have to put that on my list. And when they're not headed for the mountains, people want to go to the beach. So Gulf Shores, Alabama is popular year after year. Panama City Beach, Miramar and Rosemary Beach, that area right down the coast, and then of course Maui is a top destination for domestic travelers. And then internationally, people are renting vacation homes around the world, and Paris is a top destination. I've actually stayed in 2 different vacation homes in Paris. Both were amazing experiences. One looked right out at the Eiffel Tower, and my kids were there with me. It was amazing. That's a great memory. And Puerto Penasco, Mexico is a top destination. London, Rome, and Florence are top international destinations.
Yes, and I can vouch for places like Rome, Tuscany, Venice, having amazing vacation rental homes that are close to everything and absolutely gorgeous. Where can people go for more information on VRBO and HomeAway?
VRBO.com or that VRBO app I love it. When you have a little bit of downtime, just start looking through some of the possibilities and let your imagination go.
I absolutely love the VRBO app. I sit on the subway and I scroll and I try to see where do I want to stay next, and I can easily write to all of the owners. I absolutely love it. Melanie, thank you so much for joining me again today. I look forward to talking with you again soon.
Happy travels.
You too. And if you're looking for destination ideas, you can always head to my website, passportmommy.com, and it'll show you all kinds of places you can go with and without your little ones. I'm Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson.
You know I love to travel, but you know what they say when you have young kids. It's no longer a vacation, but more like a trip that can be exhausting. However, I have found one way to make it a whole lot easier. Rent a vacation home at VRBO.com. Instead of paying for 2 or more rooms in a hotel, you get a whole house. You also get a full kitchen and a washer and dryer, so you don't have to eat out every meal. This is especially helpful if you have a little one that needs to nap or go to bed early. I can also pack less because I can wash my clothes along the way. And we know how much a lifesaver that is with the amount of packing we need to do as moms. So to book your next vacation home, just head to VRBO.com or download the VRBO app to discover everything from beach houses to cabins and condos. They do the hard work for you, matching you to the perfect place to stay every time. Again, that's VRBO.com, and you can cruise their app, the VRBO app, and search for your next vacation home today.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson is a show about the journey of motherhood. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Happy New Year. I hope you had a great New Year's Eve, whatever you did, whether you went out and partied it up, or maybe you had a nice low-key New Year's, like I think a lot of people do once they start having kids. And with me, I have my good friend, Marshall Stevenson, on the line, great dad, owner of the New York Beer and Brewery Tour as well. And I'm sure you were hosting tours at night, but not necessarily out partying yourself, considering you have a 2-year-old.
Yeah, I think low-key is another word for boring, depressing. It's like the one day of the year, like I remember just letting my hair down, letting loose, getting hammered, not worrying about consequences or the time. And then my wife fell asleep at 10:30. The house had to be dark because of where her room is, and it was terrible. And it was pouring, and so you're watching these terrible Dick Clark shows, and they are just struggling through them and hating. It was terrible. How was your New Year's?
Well, we had a babysitter, so it was actually quite nice. Right. But I have to say that we were talking to everyone, just who we were talking to there, and we said, you know what? When was the last time we went dancing? I'm like, I think it was last New Year's Eve when my parents agreed to babysit. We never go out otherwise. So this was our big night out. And we had fun. But I agree with you. My brother had a New Year's Eve party that started at noon and went until 2. And that's just what you do when you have little ones.
It's like our family's tradition is that we play Monopoly at 3 p.m.
Right.
So my mother-in-law has not gotten to the point where she can take her overnight yet because she's tough to get down at night. So so she did babysit for us on New Year's Eve from 1:30 to 7.
Okay.
Which was really, really nice.
Yeah.
It was the New Year's Eve. It was the throwing caution to the wind and drinking too much part that I missed.
Right.
It's very nice to have several hours to go to the movies. We had dinner at 3:15.
Right.
p.m.
That's funny. Well, you get to go for the early bird special. At least you're not spending $200 a ticket.
That is true. That is a value, that we did not have to spend $200 a ticket for something that gave you a lot of pressure to have a good time. So did you say that what you did, $200 a ticket? You went out on the town dancing all night?
We did go out on the town. We went to this one place called the Glen Cove Mansion on Long Island, and they had a nice get together. It was a 6-course dinner and dancing. So, it was good. It was fun. I think anything away and just time spent together is nice, again, since it never happens.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I didn't have huge expectations. I just, like, I didn't need to be out. Like, when I was single, you go out until, 7 in the morning or whatever it is that you're definitely having breakfast. The subway's crowded at 8 in the morning with people who are still up for the night. I wasn't expecting that. I was just alone in the dark. It was raining at 11:58.
I completely understand.
That shouldn't have had to happen. I don't want that to happen again. And, there are no nights where I just thought New Year's Eve would be a little more, but it wasn't. And I think that's okay because this passes. She's not going to be 2 years old next year or the year after.
Right. Exactly. So you do what you have to do for the first couple of years and then you decide. And then maybe grandma can watch her overnight one night and you guys can go out.
That's right. Grandma, could you watch the kid while I down this 24-pack?
Well, it's funny. My husband, who had like 2.5 beers, came back. So we ended up leaving my daughter at my parents', but then we also stayed over at my parents' after the event because it was close by to them. So when we came back at 2 in the morning, my parents were both still up. And my husband's like, yeah, I'm so drunk. And my mom's like, what did he like? Was it open bar? How much did he drink? I'm like, 2.5 beers.
Well, now, when you're out in the island, don't you have to drive? Isn't it like you can't hail a cab or whatever? So you Uber there or something?
Well, no, we drove. I just drove because I can't drink right now anyway. So it was fine.
Right. So that's, that makes it even more enjoyable.
Right. Exactly. So he had fun. He was like, woo, big night out.
No, I didn't know that about your husband. So he has 2.5 drinks over the course of 6 hours and is plastered, or was just bragging that he was plastered?
Now he does.
I didn't know that.
Well, now things were different when he was single. When he was single, he would go out and he would drink a lot more and he would drink other things besides beer. But now, because he also sits in the dark after 8 o'clock when our daughter goes to sleep and does not go out, his tolerance is a lot lower.
Right. Well, anyway, it was something that it was funny. I was sitting there saying, oh, isn't this terrible in the rain by myself in the dark? And I'm like, hey, this is such a great story about, feeling sorry for yourself about something that's just not that bad. It's it's not really that tragic. But it was a little, and I'll tell you something, those ball drop programs or whatever, they are made to be at a party with the sound off. And then 10, 9, 8 at the end. Those shows are terrible. And these are talented celebrities who are just like, I don't know what to do to make this sound exciting.
Well, I'm glad. I want to chat more. We should talk about whether I have a feeling you don't keep any resolutions, but we'll talk about that or even make them. But we'll talk about that next time. Marshall, I'm glad you were here to talk to me because I have to say that before we went out on our big night, I was having the same feelings as you. And I think it's just like all about transitioning into parenthood. Thank you so much for joining me again today.
All right. Pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Marshall Stevenson, owner of the New York Beer and Brewery Tour. More coming up in just a little bit.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson. Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson is a show about the journey of motherhood. Joining you on your greatest adventure, here's Michelle Jerson, the Passport Mommy.
Thrilled to have Chris Naughton, Northeast Regional Manager for Honda Public Relations, with me because I will say that I have proudly driven my Honda Civic since 2004, and it's still going strong. However, I now have a family, and it's time to get that first family vehicle. And I recently had the opportunity to drive the Honda Pilot and the Odyssey for 2 weeks, and I have to say I loved them. So if you're in the market for a vehicle perfect for you and the kids, Honda has a few options, which we're going to sort through today with Chris. Hi, Chris. Thanks for joining me.
You bet. Great to be here, Michelle.
Thanks. So you've been with Honda for 24 years, and you're also just a car nut. You've been a car nut your whole life.
Yes, absolutely. I love talking about it, so we may go longer than the allotted time.
Okay. All right. Well, we could have you back another time. But I just wanted to talk with you because I was so impressed with the Honda Pilot and the Odyssey. And I know I'm not alone when looking for that first family vehicle. So tell me a little bit about the differences. Pretty much for families, you have the Pilot, the Odyssey, and also the CRV.
That's right. The CRV would be our 2-row SUV, so it's considered a compact, although I think giving it that name implies it's on the smaller side when actually it's really generously spaced on the inside. Plenty of room for 5 passengers, and then also plenty of cargo room behind the second row with a lift-up tailgate, which makes loading things easy, like strollers and other large, bulky items. But another thing specifically about the CRV is the rear doors. You didn't drive the CRV yet, but the CRV rear doors, they open very wide, almost 90 degrees. Oh. And so once the door opens that wide, and because it's an SUV, it's slightly higher, reaching in to put a child in a child seat, in or out, is so much easier.
Wow. And that is huge, because I know bringing the child in and out of the car seat, especially when you're doing it several times a day, can be really taxing on your body. But to be able to do it with ease makes a huge difference.
Yep. You won't be trying to squeeze through. The door won't be bumping you. So it really is quite easy. And then with regard to the Pilot, that is our larger 3-row SUV. So depending on the configuration, it can seat, it has 3 rows, but it can seat either 7 or 8 passengers. The distinction being that for years we had a bench seat in the middle. That was the only option. And it is still an option, but what we also offer now is something that's become very popular, captain's chairs for that second row. And so that allows maybe greater comfort for those 2 people in that second row, but also a walk-through / pass-through that makes it even easier to get into that third row, because there's about a 1-foot wide gap between those 2 seats. But then also, when you're in the Pilot, you may have noticed there's a electronic push button, both when you enter from the door and when you reach from the cargo area, either location. You touch that button, which is illuminated at night, and just the touch of that button makes that second row fold and slide forward, making access in or out of the third row really easy.
Great, because I was going to say just having the access, because we did have those types of seats, it was great because you can reach back really easily. If my daughter drops something out of her car seat, you can just get it. And there was plenty of room to get to that last row as well. So even though we didn't have extra passengers that we were putting back there, we sure utilized the storage space.
Mm-hmm. Should I talk about the Odyssey a bit?
Yeah, I was just going to say, go ahead.
I may have gotten ahead of you. So the Odyssey can seat either 7 or 8 passengers. And something that's really unique, and it's brand new for the Odyssey for 2018, so it's been on the market about a year, is the second row. We've come up with what we call Magic Slide for the second row seat. When it's an 8-passenger configuration, you've got a small seat in the center of the second row that can be removed, but can also hold a passenger there. But when you remove that, you are left with about a 1-foot gap between those 2 captain's chairs. By releasing a lever that's near the entry point on either side, you release that lever, you slide the seat sideways, this captain's chair, within about 12 inches of travel, maybe a little more. And it can stop in increments of a few inches per increment, and you can do that with either of the captain's chairs.
What should a family look for when they are looking for their first family vehicle?
I think along the lines of some of the things we've talked about, the ease of getting in and out, both for the front seats, which the name for that is ingress and egress. It basically just means climbing in and out of the car. And something that I think Hondas are quite good at, including our sedans, is they have a natural ingress egress, or they're just easy to get in and out of. And so I think when you're doing it every single day, that's a big deal. And same thing goes for the second row. We talked about putting children in child seats. That's something that having a rear door opening that is not only large, but the door opens out of the way, that's kind of key. But then also for families, I think safety more and more comes into being a top-of-mind purchase reason and something to look out for. And a few areas of progress there for us is we're using a lot more high-strength steel, and so that's making the body structure overall very solid, and we have excellent crash test ratings with NHTSA. Every Honda tested or rated by NHTSA is a 5-star overall, which is the best possible score, and that's consistent generally with IIHS.org, too. In their test protocols, we do very well, but we have very strong crash structures that protect the occupants. Kind of switching gears now to things that help you prevent accidents, let's say. For more than a decade, and this was more like when I started at Honda in the mid-90s, you really wanted to make sure your new car had ABS, or anti-lock brakes. And maybe a decade later, vehicle stability assist became very common, and now it's common on all cars. And vehicle stability assist helps you do what not even the best driver could do in slippery conditions. It will help prevent you skidding sideways out of control, for example. Well, now beyond those, because those are easily taken for granted now, as they should be, they're standard, would be driver assist features. And driver assist features can include a variety of things like lane departure warning, which simply warns you if you're exiting your lane without signaling, or lane keep assist, which actually uses a camera to read the lines on the road to keep you centered in your lane. And then some of the other features that are driver assist would be adaptive cruise or automatic emergency braking. Those kind of work hand in hand in that they use radar to see ahead of the vehicle, keep track of traffic in your lane, and if you are about to rear end the car in front of you, it will warn you, then it will beep, and then it will actually intervene with braking to prevent a rear collision. And
that's absolutely amazing. And I did notice that as I got a little too close to the car in front of me, there was a big sign that went brake, brake, brake. And then also you could feel when you are shifting lanes, the car almost shakes a little bit to tell you, hey, get back over. One of my fears going from a Honda Civic, which I've driven my whole life, because even before my 2004, I had another Honda Civic. I was hesitant to get what I thought was a large vehicle just for parking and for other reasons. And I felt so comfortable so quickly in them. And a lot of that was because of all of the safety features.
Mm-hmm. And in that same line, I'll just kind of run with what you said about not feeling maybe as big as you expected. I think a strength of Honda is our engineers are especially good about carving out a very generous interior, but within a vehicle that doesn't feel as big as you might think. And so they kind of, you could say they drive small. And so they're easy to park, easy to maneuver, and it sounds like that's what you found. And part of that, I'll just mention one other thing, is that when you look out of the front windshield, you want the best view possible. And our A-pillars, which that's the metal on the left and the right of the windshield, are very thin. And we make a special effort to do that, and it affords you better view outward.
Honda gives you a very nice view. There's no question. So let me ask you, a lot of people seem to be buying SUVs nowadays. Are people still buying cars?
Yes. So SUVs, the market does continue to move in that direction where SUVs are very popular. But with regard to sedans, because of the popularity of SUVs, there's a lot of talk that sedans just aren't selling. And that is very much exaggerated, I'd say, because actually last year we sold over 600,000 Civics and Accords combined. And when you factor in the fact that the industry last year sold about 17 million cars, that's the entire industry, and that includes trucks. The fact that Honda alone sold 600,000, more than that, sedans. Sedans are still very much an important part of the market and very much an important product for Honda.
Just even having a family, a lot of them don't want two SUVs necessarily, but maybe the one SUV to take the family around. Maybe it's mom's car. And then dad has a sedan, which he commutes to work with every day.
I think that makes perfect sense. I think if I were in a two-car household, that's what I would, my vote would be for that, because sometimes you need the cargo capacity and maybe a third row. But quite often, sedans really have a generous amount of space. We didn't talk a whole lot about cargo space yet, but the Accord, for example, has almost 17 cubic feet of trunk space. That's among the best in its segment. And it's kind of amazing what you can fit in 17 cubic feet. You know, multiple full-size golf bags, lots of luggage, lots of groceries, a full-size stroller. Really, sedans can satisfy a lot of needs unless you need really big cargo capacity.
And that's what I love. I've driven the Civic. My parents have an Accord, and I think it's amazing. There is so much space in the Accord, and it's also plenty of room if you did want to put the second car seat in the Accord as well and drive to wherever you need to go to the family's long distance, because it's still a very comfortable car.
And you do get a fuel economy benefit. Sedans typically get better fuel economy. And just a quick thing with regard to the Accord, that if one of your listeners is on the fence about maybe looking at an Accord or a CRV, I'd encourage them to look at both. Be sure to sit in the rear seat. One of the strengths of the Accord in its segment is it's got really generous rear legroom. And so beyond just being comfortable for adults to sit back there with plenty of legroom in the rear seat of the Accord, when you put a child seat back there, whether forward-facing or rearward-facing, there's more room than you might expect, and it's not a tight fit at all in most cases.
Right. Yeah, that's excellent. Now, as far as the CRV versus, say, the Pilot, which would you recommend to a new family who might say, wow, I have, maybe they have a double stroller, maybe they take their pack and play everywhere. Does the CRV have enough room for all of that?
I think the CRV, there's a very good chance that it could have the right amount of space. As long as you are okay with 5-passenger seating, you could fit 2 child seats in the CRV, and then you've got cargo capacity in the back that's around almost 40 cubic feet behind the second row, which is a lot to hold beyond a stroller and other necessities. And so what we often find, I think, with regard to CRV owners is they're typically a family that has 1 or 2 children. As soon as there's perhaps a third child, or maybe within any given week, it's pretty likely you're going to need a bit more space, then the Pilot kind of enters the picture as being a great choice to step up to.
Yeah. And I would love to talk more about the differences between the Pilot and the Odyssey, because the Odyssey, even though it's a minivan, and I feel like a lot of people say, oh, poo-poo to minivans, it is an incredible car, and it ranked so high, but we only have about 30 seconds left. So give us a tease of what we'll talk about next time. Tell me a little bit, does Honda have plans in sight for other features that are coming on board? I know we just started our 2019 vehicles.
Well, one key thing, I talked a lot about safety, but another thing with regard to just ease of use is CarPlay and Android Auto are becoming quite common in the industry, but I think Honda is leading the charge in making it widely available and standard on most trims. So every car we've talked about today, from basically EX and above trim levels, which is about 3/4 of what we sell, has standard Android Auto and CarPlay. And for example, CarPlay now has Waze embedded within it. And so the integration of your smartphone with the vehicle, it just makes for such easy use that you'll use on every drive.
And that is absolutely amazing, because you don't find that standard on a lot of other vehicles. Chris Naughton, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to purchasing my next vehicle very shortly, and I'll tell you, it's going to be a Honda.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Passport Mommy with Michelle Jerson.
So now that January is here, we are all looking for a getaway, especially because you can get really good airline prices now. But there's a different way to travel once you become a mom. And I realized that I no longer travel any other way but by renting a vacation home. I only use VRBO.com when I go away. I have found gorgeous homes in places like Sarasota and all over Italy. I stayed exclusively in VRBO homes in Rome, Tuscany, Florence, and Venice, and had amazing experiences. The homes are spacious, clean, and the hosts are very helpful. To book your next vacation home, just head to VRBO.com or download the VRBO app to discover everything from beach houses to cabins and condos. They do the hard work for you, matching you to the perfect place to stay every time. So again, just head to VRBO.com or to their app to book your next vacation rental. Beach houses, cabins, and condos. They have everything.